Today's session is purely dedicated to the discussion on the torsion of circular shaft. So, what exactly is torsion? It's very simple to understand because in your day-to-day life you also might have used this torsion principles knowingly or unknowingly for the various applications. Suppose if you, while washing the clothes, you squeezed out the water by applying a torsion on the cloth. You see, if a force acts on a material which tries to twist the longitudinal axis, then that is called as a torsion or torque. So any kind of forces or combination of forces or effect of forces which twist the longitudinal axis is called as a torque. Though the unit of torque and moment are one and the same, but the effect is completely different. Moment tries to bend the system, whereas torsion tries to twist the longitudinal axis. That's how you have to understand things. And in many applications, day-to-day life, we use these torsional principles in many applications. For example, if you consider the torsional spring also, it has got many applications. Even your door locks also, we have torsional springs. So the application of torsion is very common in our day-to-day life. So if you have a close observation on the working aspects of different components, you can see how beneficial is this torsion. So if you look at this particular figure, we can say that a couple is generated by the action of this P2 at a distance of D2. But when we discuss about this particular couple in the bending stress, we consider that or the effect caused by this couple was bending. So I hope you all remember about the couples that we discussed about in the SFD, BMD and the bending stress, where this couple was supposed to bend the beam, whereas the same couple, if you apply in this manner, at the end, it is trying to twist the longitudinal axis. That's what I told. Simply by changing the plane of action of the forces, we can completely change the effect of the forces. So this creates a bending, but this creates a torsion. So basically we will discuss only on the shaft, because shafts are the structural elements whose length is very high when compared to that of the cross-section dimensions. So that's one of the assumptions that we have. One more thing we have to keep in your mind is that the torque applied to the shaft produces a shear stress. That's another important thing. Due to the application of direct stress and bending loads, direct load and bending load, there will be a normal stress developing in the material. But that's not the case in torsion. Due to the application of torsion, a shear stress is getting developed within the material. So that is another thing we have to consider. So whenever we have to discuss about the torsion, the stress developed within the material is nothing but torsion. Shear. Let us move on and see what are the assumptions that we have to make while deriving the torsion equation. So obviously you know what are the assumptions that we have carried out when we derived the bending equation. Similar to that, the material of the beam has to be homogeneous and it has to be isotropic. It should have a constant G all through the direction to have the proper shear stress and the shear strains in the material and for the compactability issues. And another important thing that we have to keep in your mind is that even after the application of torsion, the plane of the cross sections remain plane. That's the same assumption we have done used in the bending also. The same thing is very much valid here also in the case of torsion. So this particular cross section, if you consider this particular cross section, that remains plane itself even after the application of torsion, because out of plane deformations, nothing but the warping is not considered here also. I hope you all remember. If you have not understood what exactly is warping, you kindly go to the shear stress distribution, bending, and there you can see what exactly is the assumptions that we have made. There I have clearly stated about the out of plane deformation, and that is not expected to happen here also. And if you consider that particular assumption, there are some other corollaries or different methods in which we can define this particular explanation. One is by the cross section remains plain and perpendicular to the axis of shaft. The cross section do not deform and the distance between the cross section do not change. These are some of the interpretations or the indirect meaning of these particular assumptions. And the cross section rotates as rigidly as a rigid entity. A rigid in the sense means it is not undergoing any kind of permanent deformation. It's remaining as a solid piece. That's the pure meaning of rigidity. Rigid means a rigid bar means it is not undergoing any kind of permanent deformation. It can maintain its shape. So the cross sections are considered as a rigid piece and they will not undergo any kind of permanent deformations. And another important assumption is that the torque that is applied is uniform throughout the length of the shaft. And we are not expecting any kind of variation in the cross section in the shaft. And the shear stress is proportional to the shear strain and obeys the Hooke's law. That is the final assumption. I think these assumptions are very much common when we compare with the bending. So these are some common assumptions which are inevitable to carry out the reactions. So the shear stress is proportional to the distance from the center or the longitudinal axis, and it is proportional to the shear strain, and all these contribute to the theory of pure torsion. So in other words, we can say that we expect a torsion, a pure torsion. We are not expecting any kind of bending or any kind of this direct stress to be applied on the material. We expect only a torsion to develop in the material. So because of this torsion, we only have the shear stress developing in the material. That is the important thing you have to keep in your mind. We are not considering any other type of load in the system. So that contributes to pure shear condition. Pure shear in the sense, if you consider a cross section or a circular section, you have only torsion. You don't have any other kind of stress develop. You don't have any other combinations also. You can't have any kind of normal stress or sigma in the material. So it is purely designed or purely entitled to have the shear stress in the material. So that's what's called as the theory of pure torsion. So moving forward, we have to derive the torsion equation. So let us reduce everything into a derivative manner. So if you look at this particular shaft, it is applied with a torsion T. What happens? You can see a point which is over here has changed to another point. And this particular deformation or this particular angle is called as the shear strain. So this is the shear strain. This is shear strain. So if you look here, we can say that this value is going to be the shear strain. And if we look here, if you take the front view like this and the side view like this, we can have a view like this. This is the front view. Oh, this is the side view. Oh, the reverse order also will do things. Okay, so this is the shear strain. Now look here, this was the point D and it has deformed to a point D dash. So this was the point D and it has deformed to D dash. So the amount of deformation happened in the cross section is called as theta, which is nothing but the angle of twist. So theta is the angle of twist. I will explain all these terminologies once again after the derivation. So theta is called as the angle of twist, gamma is called as the shear strain. Now let us derive. Let's derive the shear strain or the torsion equation of this particular cross section. So if you take tan gamma, what we can say, it is nothing but opposite by adjacent. So opposite is nothing but d dash divided by adjacent is the length L. So if we look here, we can say that d dash can be written as r theta, arc length. This is going to be the arc length. So if you substitute this d dash is equal to r theta over here, we can say that it is going to be r theta by L. And we know that in mechanics of solids we are dealing with only small strains, small deformations. So the tan gamma is considered as very small, so it is approximately equal to gamma. So it can be written as shear strain gamma is equal to r theta by L. And based upon the Hooke's law, we can say that shear stress is equal to G, shear stress by shear strain is equal to G, and we can say that shear strain is equal to tau by G. So if you substitute this over here, we can rewrite this equation as tau equal to tau by G is equal to r theta by L. So upon rearranging, we can conclude that tau by r is equal to G theta by L. This is the first part of the torsion equation, which consists of the shear stress, radius, modulus of rigidity, angle of twist theta, L, length of the shaft. Now our aim is to relate or bring into the cross-sectional effect as well as the torsion value into this equation. So if you compare a cross-section like this, what we need to find is the torsion happening at every element. So if we consider a small element like this, it is dA, it is acting upon by a shear stress tau. So shear stress tau is something acting on the surface like this, something like this. But when you go inside, the value of tau is going to change. Say Q is the shear stress acting on a small element. So if we take a strip like this, which is located at a distance of r from the center, whose thickness is dr, we can say that we can consider that the shear stress which is acting on this particular strip is uniform and the value is Q, whereas the one which is acting on the surface is tau. With a theory of pure torsion, we have told that the value is maximum at the surface and is proportional to R. So in the outside we have a shear value of tau, whereas in an inner element we have a value as Q. Now we will find out the small force dP, which is nothing but tau into Qa. Unfortunately, I will rewrite this tau as Q because a small force shear is acting, that is considered as Q. So what is going to be dP? dP is nothing but Q into dA. Okay. Now, if this is Q into dA, what is Q? We have to rewrite Q in terms of tau and R. So the total radius is capital R. So how can we rewrite this? So we can rewrite this as Q by small r is equal to tau by capital R, proportionality. It has to satisfy because Q by R equal to tau by capital. So if you isolate Q from here, we can rewrite it like this, tau by capital R into small r. So if we substitute it over here in this equation, it is going to be like dP is equal to tau by capital R into R dA. This is a small force happening on a small element. And if you take the entire section, entire strip, and we have to convert this force into a torque by multiplying it with the radius R. It is the radius R. So if you apply the small force dP with R, it is going to create a twisting effect on the cross section. So the small torque dt is nothing but what? Tau by R, or in other words we can say it like this. It is nothing but dP into R. So that is equal to what? Tau by R into R square dA. So we are multiplying this term with an R, which is going to create R square dA. And we are interested to find out the total value of torque in the entire cross section. So we have to integrate the entire equation R square dA. So in short, what we can say, tau by R into integral R square dA. What is this? Integral R square dA. So integral R square dA is nothing but polar moment of inertia, which is nothing but Jp, or in terms J, or equal to J. So when we rewrite this equation, we can write it like this: T by, or it will be like this: T is equal to tau by R into J. And if we rearrange this, it is going to be T by J is equal to tau by R. And from the previous equation that we have derived, we know that tau by R is equal to G theta by L. So if we write it over here, it is going to be G theta by L. So this is the equation that we have derived for the torsion. It's a very simple equation, very much similar to that of the moment equation or the bending equation. And this equation you should not forget in your lifetime. Is a very important equation. So once again, we can say that the torsion equation consists of the torque T, polar moment of inertia J, max shear stress tau, and radius of the radius of the system R, modulus of rigidity G, angle of twist theta, and length of the shaft L. So when you compare the torsion equation with bending equation, you can find many similarities. Like torsion T is the maximum torsion in the shaft. This is not T, this is tau. This is tau is the maximum shear stress, or small r equal to capital R. This can also be written like this: capital R equal to the radius of the system. And G is the modulus of rigidity. Theta is the angular twist in radians. It's in radians. So if you have a value of theta into pi by 180, it gives the value in radians. I think you all know about this particular conversion. It's a very simple conversion you have learned in your primary classes. So L is the length of the shaft. And finally, we have the polar moment of inertia. What is the value of polar moment of inertia? If you consider the solid circular cross section, the value of J is equal to, it is simply stated that J is nothing but Ixx plus Iy. That is the actual definition of J. So no need to worry about all these things. So in simple words, we can say that J is nothing but pi d raised to 4 by 32. This is the value of J. And if you consider the hollow shaft, the value of J is nothing but pi by 32 into capital D raised to 4 minus small d raised to 4. This is the formula that you have to keep in your mind. So if you are going for the maximum value, we can say that the radius R is nothing but capital D by 2 or capital D out by 2. If you consider D is equal to D out, we can say so. Okay, or if you consider this D in, we can rewrite the equation like this: pi by 32 into D outer raised to 4 minus D inner raised to 4. These are different alternative forms that you can find in different textbooks. So this is how the value of J is going to vary from solid section to a hollow section, and you focus only on these two cross sections, because we are not discussing anything related to anything other than these two cross sections, because the concept will completely change. And one more thing, before concluding, what is the value of tau? If you take the first two terms, it is nothing but T by J into R. This is how the value is going to change. In a similar manner, like we explained about the bending stress, we stated that the value of bending is going to change based on the value of Y. Similarly here, the value of tau is going to change purely based upon the value of R. That means R is a radius. So when the value of R is 0, the value of shear is going to be 0. When the value of R is maximum, you are going to get the maximum value of R here. So if that is the case, from the center, you have the radius is like this. So if you consider the variation, it can be written like this. So this is center. So how the variation is going to happen? So if you have a torque like this, so definitely it is going to have a similar type of variation that we have noted in the bending. This is how the shear is going to vary for the section. Or in other words, what I will show you one thing. This is how it is being represented. This is how it is represented. If you want to represent it within the solid, this is how it is going to look like. Similar is the case for the hollow section, because we don't have material here, so some portion of the material will get cancelled out, but still there will be a fluctuation like this. The maximum will be obtained at the R, minimum at the center. So this is how the stress in a stress distribution, shear stress distribution in a circular shaft and hollow shaft will look like. You can have the maximum value in the outer surface, and to the inner you have the value as 0. So if you take the ratio J by Y, also not J by Y, J by R, this is called as the polar section modulus ZP, which is used to compare the strength. So if you take the value of J by R as section modulus, polar section modulus ZP, which will indirectly fetch you the value of the strength. So that is generally being used for the comparative type of distance, but as an information you kindly keep it like this. So polar section modulus is J by R, and we have described the value for J as well as the R value. So kindly go through the torsional derivation, have a clear-cut idea about the terminologies and the corresponding units that we have to use. So in the next session, I will discuss about the various features of torsion of circular shaft, where we have to discuss the torsional rigidity, stiffness, all those things, and we will discuss on the composite shaft, etc. So see you then. Bye.